The space around the dead planet looked empty and cold, but it was not empty at all. Thousands of ships moved through the darkness like hunting wolves. These were not human ships. They belonged to the Zephyrian Empire, and they had come to end humanity forever. Emperor Vextar stood on the bridge of his biggest warship. His forearms crossed over his chest as he watched the stars. The Emperor was old, even by his people's long lives. He had ruled the galaxy for 800 years. In all that time, no one had dared to fight his empire. No one had been stupid enough to try. Until now. The humans had said no to his demands. They refused to surrender their worlds. They would not bow down and serve the Empire like all the other races. This made the Emperor very angry. How dare these young creatures challenge him? Humans had only been in space for 50 years. The Empire was 3,000 years old. "Bring me the war leader," the Emperor said. His voice was like ice breaking. General Krixth walked onto the bridge. He was the best fighter in the Empire. His people had won 1,000 battles across the galaxy. The general's 6 eyes looked at the star charts floating in the air. "My lord," Krixth said, "we have 12,000 ships ready for battle. The humans have only 800. They cannot win." The Emperor smiled, showing teeth like broken glass. "Good. Make sure none of them escape. I want every human ship destroyed. I want their worlds to see what happens when someone says no to me." Far away on the other side of the solar system, the human fleet waited. Their ships were smaller than the Empire's vessels. They looked rough and used, like tools that had seen many fights. But there was something different about these ships. They moved like they were alive. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UTS Liberty. He was a tall man with gray hair and calm blue eyes. He had fought in many wars before the aliens came. Now he was fighting the biggest war of all. "Lisa," he said to the young woman at the communication station. "Any word from Earth?" Lisa Parker looked up from her controls. She was scared, but her voice was steady. "Captain, Earth says to give them hell. The president says the whole planet is watching." Morrison nodded. He knew this battle was about more than just winning or losing. If they lost here, humanity would be slaves forever. If they won, they would show the galaxy that humans could not be broken. "How many ships do we have, Rick?" Morrison asked his second officer. Commander Rick Hayes checked his numbers again. 812 ships, sir. Every captain says they are ready to fight." Morrison smiled. He remembered being a young soldier on Earth. Back then they fought wars with bullets and bombs. Now they fought among the stars with weapons that could destroy planets. But the feeling was the same. Good people fighting to stay free. Admiral Kate Sullivan's face appeared on the main screen. She was on her own ship, the UTS Defiance. Kate was the leader of the entire human fleet. She had been a fighter pilot before she became an admiral. She knew how to win battles that seemed impossible. "Jake," she said, "our scouts report the Empire fleet will be here in 2 hours. Are your people ready?" "Ready as we can be," Morrison replied. "What about the special weapons?" Kate's smile was cold and sharp. "Amy and Ben have been working day and night. They say the Empire is in for a big surprise." In the science ship UTS Darwin, Dr. Amy Rogers was making final checks on equipment that no alien had ever seen. She was a small woman with quick hands and a brilliant mind. Next to her, engineer Ben Carter watched numbers dance across his screens. "Amy," Ben said, "the power levels look good. When they see what we've done with their own technology, they're going to wish they never found Earth." Amy nodded. 3 years ago, humans had captured an Empire ship. They took it apart piece by piece. They learned how alien technology worked. But humans did not just copy it, they made it better. Much better. "Ben, remember what they taught us in school," Amy said. "Humans are good at taking things apart and putting them back together. Today we show the galaxy what that means." On another ship, fighter pilot Scott Adams was getting his squadron ready for battle. He was young and fast, with the reflexes that came from growing up in Earth's gravity. His pilots were the same. They had learned to fly in Earth's thick air and strong gravity. Spaceflying was easy compared to that. "Listen up, Tigers," Scott told his pilots. These aliens think they know how to fight. They've been winning battles for thousands of years, but they never fought humans before. We're going to show them something new. The Empire ships were getting closer. Their weapons could destroy moons. Their shields could stop any attack the galaxy had ever seen. Every alien race had tried to fight them. Every alien race had lost. But humans were not like other aliens. Humans came from a world where everything tried to kill them. They had fought their way from caves to the stars. They had learned to survive when survival seemed impossible. Captain Morrison looked at the enemy fleet approaching on his screens. 12,000 ships against 800. Any sane person would run away. Any smart person would surrender. But humans had never been completely sane or smart. They were stubborn, they were mean when cornered, and they never gave up. All ships, Morrison said into his microphone. This is Captain Morrison. Today we fight for more than just ourselves. We fight for every free person in the galaxy. We fight to show the Empire that some things cannot be conquered. The Empire fleet was only 1 hour away now. Soon the galaxy would see what happened. When an ancient empire met a young race that refused to kneel, the humans were ready, and they were smiling. The first shots came like lightning across the darkness of space. The Empire fleet fired together, 12,000 ships sending death toward the humans. Their weapons were bright and terrible, beams of pure energy that could cut through planets. General Crixth watched from his command ship. He expected to see human ships exploding like fireworks. He expected to see the end of this silly rebellion in the first few minutes. But something was wrong. The human ships were still there. The bright beams of Empire weapons hit them, but they did not break apart. Instead, something impossible happened. The human ships seemed to drink the energy like water. "What is happening?" Crixth shouted at his officers. "Why are they not dying?" His science officer looked at the readings with 4 wide eyes. "General, their shields are not blocking our weapons. They are eating them. Our own energy is making them stronger." On the UTS Liberty, Captain Morrison watched the enemy attack with calm eyes. "Janet, how are our power levels?" Lieutenant Janet Miller smiled as she watched her controls. "Captain, we are at 115% power. Their weapons are charging our batteries better than our own reactors." Morrison nodded. Years of human science had led to this moment. When they captured that Empire ship, human scientists did not just study the weapons. They studied everything. They learned how Empire energy worked. Then they found a way to turn it around. "Fire. When ready, Janet," Morrison said. The human counterattack began. But these were not the big beam weapons that the Empire used. Human ships launched small, fast missiles that moved like living things. Each missile had a computer brain that could think and learn and talk to the other missiles. The Empire had never seen weapons like this. Their defenses were built to stop big, slow attacks. They could not handle thousands of small, smart weapons that worked together like a pack of wolves. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Miller, "our hunter-killer missiles are adapting to their defenses, in real time. Every time they try to stop one, the others learn how to get past the same defense." In the Empire fleet, panic was starting to spread. Ships that had never been hurt in 1,000 battles were taking damage from weapons they could not understand. The missiles were not just exploding against the hulls. They were cutting through armor and finding weak spots that should have been impossible to hit. Dr. Amy Rogers was coordinating the attack from her science ship. Around her, teams of human scientists watched every move the Empire made. They fed information to the fleet's computers faster than any alien could think. "Kevin," Amy called to Dr. Kevin Walsh, "are you getting good readings on their hull composition?" Kevin's fingers danced over his controls. "Amy, we are learning more about their technology in this one battle than we learned in 3 years of study. The way their quantum fields interact with normal matter is amazing." Amy grinned. "Then let's give them a lesson in human science." She sent new information to the human weapons. Within seconds, the missiles changed their attack patterns. They began targeting the quantum field generators that held the Empire ships together. When those failed, the alien ships started falling, apart from the inside. Commander Rachel Torres was leading her fighter squadron into the heart of the Empire fleet. Human fighters were tiny compared to the big alien ships, but they were fast and their pilots were fearless. Tigers, follow me in, Rachel called to her squadron. Remember, we are faster than they are, meaner than they are, and we fight dirty. The old human fighters dove between the Empire ships like angry wasps. The big alien vessels tried to swat them, but they moved too fast. Human pilots had learned to fly in Earth's gravity and atmosphere. Flying in the empty vacuum of space was easy for them. Scott Adams pulled his fighter into a turn that would have killed most aliens. The gravity forces would have crushed their bodies. But humans were tough. They came from a heavy world with dangerous weather. Tiger leader to all fighters, Scott called out. Look for the communication arrays. If we can stop them from talking to each other, they will be even easier to beat. The Empire ships were built for fighting other Empire ships. They expected enemies to line up and trade shots like gentlemen. They were not ready for an enemy that flew between their formations and attacked from all directions at once. General Crixeth was learning that humans did not fight like gentlemen. They are using our own ships as cover, he said in disbelief. They are hiding behind our vessels and shooting at us from point-blank range. It was true. Captain Morrison had ordered his ships to move right into the middle of the Empire formation. The big alien ships could not fire their main weapons without hitting their own allies, but the smaller human ships could fire in all directions. This is not how space battles are supposed to work, Crixth said. His aide looked at the tactical display with growing fear. General, I do not think the humans know how space battles are supposed to work. Back on the UTS Liberty, Morrison was proving that point. Lisa, signal the Vengeance and the Intrepid. Tell them to execute pattern Crazy Dog. Lisa Parker sent the message. Across the human fleet, captains grinned when they got the order. Pattern Crazy Dog was something they had practiced but never used in real battle. It was too dangerous and too insane for a normal fight. But this was not a normal fight. The human ships scattered in what looked like total chaos. But it was not chaos at all. Every ship knew exactly where every other ship was going. They had practiced this dance 1,000 times. The Empire ships tried to follow them, but aliens could not think fast enough. Their ships were too big and slow. Their formations were too rigid. Within minutes, the Empire fleet was tied up in knots with their own ships blocking each other's shots. Chief Petty Officer Carl Johnson was watching the battle from his gunship. Boys, he said to his crew, I think we just taught these aliens what happens when you pick a fight with humans. His gunner, a young man named Pete Davis, was tracking an Empire cruiser with his weapons. Chief, should we feel bad about this? It almost seems unfair. Johnson laughed. Pete, they came here to make slaves out of every human in the galaxy. I think we can forgive ourselves for fighting back. The Empire had brought their best ships and their most experienced crews. They had planned this battle for months. They thought they knew everything about human capabilities. They were wrong. Dr. Amy Rogers was making the final adjustments to her secret weapon. Ben, initiate the quantum cascade. Let's show them what happens when humans improve on alien technology. Engineer, Ben Carter pressed the activation button. Across space, fields of energy that the Empire thought they understood began to change. Human modifications to alien quantum technology were about to turn the tide of the battle in a way that no one could have predicted. The Empire had expected an easy victory. Instead, they were learning that humans were unlike any enemy they had ever faced. These strange creatures from a small blue world did not fight like civilized beings. They fought like predators, and predators were very good at hunting. The Empire fleet was breaking apart like a machine with too many broken pieces. Ships that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries were floating dead in space. The humans had done the impossible. They were winning. Captain Jake Morrison watched another Empire cruiser explode on his screen. The enemy was still fighting, but they were no longer fighting to win. They were fighting just to survive. Lisa, open a channel to the Empire flagship, Morrison ordered. Communications Officer Lisa. Parker's fingers moved quickly over her controls. Channel open, sir. Morrison's voice carried across space to the Empire command ship. His words were calm and patient, like a teacher talking to a slow student. General Crixth, this is Captain Morrison. I am giving you one chance to surrender. Leave this system and never come back to human space. On the Empire flagship, General Krixth stared at his tactical display. Half his fleet was gone. The other half was scattered and confused. This was supposed to be an easy victory. Instead, it had become a nightmare. "You dare offer terms to us?" Krixth shouted into the communicator. "We have ruled this galaxy for 3,000 years. We are the masters of space itself." Morrison's reply was quiet and deadly. "General, you ruled this galaxy because you never met us. Today that changes. Tomorrow the galaxy will know that the Empire can be beaten." The truth of those words was spreading through the Empire fleet like a virus. Alien crews who had believed they were invincible were watching their mighty ships fall to human weapons. Everything they thought they knew about warfare was being proven wrong. Commander Rick Hayes was leading the final assault on the Empire's heavy battleships. These were the biggest ships in the alien fleet, massive vessels that could destroy planets. But size meant nothing if you could not hit your target. "All units execute pattern Wolfpack," Hayes ordered. His ships scattered into a wide hunting formation. Each vessel targeted a different part of the enemy ship's operations. Where the Empire tried to concentrate their strength, humans spread it out. Where the Empire sought one big battle, humans created 100 small ones. The Empire battleships found themselves fighting enemies they could not see clearly and could not predict. Human tactics were like trying to fight smoke or shadows. Lieutenant, Commander Helen Brooks was coordinating the attack on Empire supply lines. "Sir, their logistics network is exactly what our intelligence predicted. They depend completely on central coordination." Morrison nodded. Human strategists had studied the Empire for years. They knew that any system based on rigid control had weaknesses that could be exploited. "Cut their supply lines, Helen. Let's see how well they fight when they cannot get ammunition or fuel." The results were immediate and terrible for the Empire. Ships began running out of power in the middle of battle. Weapon systems shut down. Life support started failing. The Empire's perfect organization became a trap when the organization itself was attacked. Chief Petty Officer Carl Johnson was leading another boarding action. This time against an Empire ammunition ship. Human Marines moved through the alien vessel like they owned it. "Remember your training," Johnson told his men. "These beings have never fought hand-to-hand combat. They freeze up when someone gets close." It was true. Empire soldiers were trained to fight with advanced weapons at long range. They had no idea what to do when humans came at them with knives and bare hands. Many aliens simply surrendered rather than face close combat. Dr. Amy Rogers was achieving the most important victory of all from her science ship. "Ben, we have completely cracked their quantum communication system. We are not just reading their messages, we are writing new ones." Engineer Ben Carter laughed as he watched false orders spread through the Empire fleet. "Amy, they are actually following our commands. We are not just beating them, we are commanding them." This was perhaps the most humiliating part of the Empire's defeat. Their own ships were obeying orders from human computers. The aliens were so used to following commands without question that they could not tell the difference between real orders and fake ones. Fighter pilot Scott Adams was chasing the last Empire fighters when he noticed something important. Tiger leader to all pilots. "Look at how they are retreating. Even when they are losing, they maintain perfect formation." This observation would become famous in human military schools. The Empire was not just losing a battle. They were losing their understanding of how war worked. Their rigid discipline, which had been their strength for thousands of years, had become their greatest weakness. Admiral Kate Sullivan sent a message to the entire human fleet. "All ships, this is Admiral Sullivan. Today we have shown the galaxy that humans cannot be conquered, cannot be intimidated, and will not bow to anyone. Let every species in the galaxy hear this message." As the surviving Empire ships began to retreat, they carried more than news of military defeat. They carried proof that the galaxy's oldest and strongest empire could be beaten by a young race that refused to surrender. The human victory was complete in every way. The Empire had brought their best ships, their most experienced crews, and their most advanced weapons. None of it had been enough against human creativity and determination. Captain Dan Murphy was overseeing the rescue of Empire survivors. This confused many of the alien prisoners. They expected to be killed or enslaved. Instead, human medical teams were treating their wounds and providing food and water. "Why are you helping us?" asked an Empire officer who had been pulled from a destroyed ship. Murphy looked at the alien with patient eyes. "Because that is what humans do. We fight hard, but we do not torture prisoners. Your empire never learned the difference between strength and cruelty." This would become another defining moment of the human victory. While the empire ruled through fear and brutality, humans showed mercy to defeated enemies. This made them stronger, not weaker, because it meant that other species would choose to join humans rather than fight them. Dr. Kevin Walsh was documenting the technological revolution that the battle had triggered. Amy, the quantum field manipulations we developed are not just military weapons. We are looking at medical breakthroughs, faster communication, and energy systems that could power entire worlds. The human victory had been achieved through science as much as through warfare. This approach would change galactic civilization forever. Other species would learn that rapid innovation was more powerful than ancient tradition. As the last empire, ships limped away from the battlefield. The humans began counting the cost of their victory. They had lost 37 ships and 4,000 brave people. But they had destroyed over 8,000 Empire vessels and captured nearly 2 million prisoners. More importantly, they had proven that the Empire could be beaten. News of this victory would spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Every enslaved species would know that freedom was possible. Every dictator would know that their time was limited. The galaxy had shaken when the Empire dared to face the Terran fleet. But when the shaking stopped, it was humanity that stood victorious. They had not conquered the galaxy. They had liberated it, and in the years to come, that would make all the difference. The battle was turning into something that no alien had ever seen before. The Empire fleet was bigger and stronger, but the humans were winning anyway. They fought in ways that broke every rule of civilized warfare. Captain Jake Morrison was taking his ship directly into the enemy formation. This was suicide by any normal military thinking, but humans did not always think normally. "Helen, take us between those two battleships," Morrison told his navigator. "Use their own gravity fields to swing us around." Lieutenant Commander Helen Brooks did not question the order. She had served with Morrison for 5 years. She knew he could see patterns in battle that other people missed. The UTS Liberty dove toward 2 massive Empire ships. The aliens expected the human ship to be crushed between their hulls. Instead, Morrison used their own mass against them. His ship slingshot around them like a stone from a sling. "Now, Janet," Morrison said calmly, "fire everything." The Liberty's weapons hit the Empire ships from point-blank range. At this distance, even their powerful shields could not stop the attack. Both alien vessels took critical damage before they could react. General Crixith watched this happen and felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. How did they do that? Our gravitational fields should have torn their ship apart. His science officer was checking the readings again and again. "General, they are using our own physics against us. They understand our technology better than we do." This was the terrible truth that the Empire was learning. Humans had spent 3 years studying captured alien equipment, but they had not just copied it. They had improved it in ways that the original builders never imagined. Fighter pilot Scott Adams was demonstrating this as he led his squadron through a formation of Empire cruisers. Human fighters moved like birds through a forest, never flying straight, always changing direction. "Wild Pack, follow my lead," Scott called to his pilots. "We are going to thread the needle." Scott dove his fighter toward the biggest Empire ship in the formation. His squadron followed him in a line, each fighter only meters from the one in front. They flew between the massive alien guns like children running between the legs of giants. The Empire gunners tried to track them, but human fighters were too fast and too unpredictable. By the time the aliens could aim, the humans were already somewhere else. "Take out their communication towers," Scott ordered. "If they cannot talk to each other, they cannot coordinate their attacks." The human fighters hit their targets with perfect accuracy. Years of training in Earth's atmosphere had made them the best pilots in the galaxy. They could fly through thunderstorms and tornadoes. Flying in the vacuum of space was easy compared to that. On the UTS Vigilance, Chief Engineer Maria Santos was showing another human talent. She was fixing problems that should not have solutions. "Captain, their tractor beam is trying to lock onto us," Maria reported to Captain Dan Murphy. "But I have an idea." "Do it," Murphy said without hesitation. He trusted his engineer completely. Maria rerouted power through systems that were never designed to handle it. She turned the ship's hull into something that confused alien sensors. The Vigilance began to appear in 5 different places at once on Empire scanners. "Maria, you are a genius," Murphy said as enemy fire missed them completely. "No, sir," Maria replied with a grin. "I am just a human engineer. We are very good at making things work when they should not work." This was another thing that confused the Empire. Their technology was perfect and unchanging. It had worked the same way for thousands of years. Human technology was messy and adaptable. Humans could modify their equipment in the middle of a battle. Dr. Amy Rogers was coordinating the fleet's scientific attack from her laboratory ship. Human military thinking combined science and war in ways that aliens found disturbing. "Kevin, are you getting those quantum matrix readings?" she asked Dr. Kevin Walsh. Kevin nodded as data flowed across his screens. "Amy, I think I know how to turn their own weapons against them. If we can cause a cascade failure in their quantum entanglement systems." Amy's eyes lit up with the look of a scientist who had just solved an impossible puzzle. "Do it. Show them what happens when humans get their hands on technology they do not fully understand." What the Empire did not realize was that humans were very good at understanding things quickly. They had learned to adapt or die during millions of years of evolution on a dangerous planet. Kevin sent new instructions to the human fleet's computers. Within seconds, every human ship began broadcasting a specific frequency that interfered with alien quantum systems. The Empire ships began to malfunction as their own technology turned against them. Admiral Kate Sullivan was watching the battle from her command ship. She was coordinating an attack that was part military action, part scientific experiment, and part art form. "All ships, execute pattern storm," she ordered. "Let's show them how humans handle impossible odds." The human fleet scattered into what looked like complete disorder. But every captain knew exactly what every other captain was doing. They had practiced these maneuvers until they could do them in their sleep. Each human ship became both hunter and hunted, drawing enemy fire while setting up devastating counterattacks. It was warfare as a dance, and the Empire was learning that they had challenged a species that turned fighting into an art form. Commander Rick Hayes was leading an assault group against the Empire's biggest ships. "All units, remember your training. We do not fight to destroy. We fight to win." This was an important difference. The Empire fought to show their power. Humans fought to achieve specific goals. Every human attack had a purpose beyond just causing damage. Hayes's ships targeted the Empire's command vessels. Without coordination, the alien fleet would fall apart. Human tacticians had studied the Empire for years. They knew that aliens depended on central control in ways that humans did not. "Sir, their command network is collapsing," reported Lieutenant Carl Martinez from the communications station. "They are starting to fire on their own ships." Hayes smiled grimly. "That is what happens when you build a military that cannot think for itself." The Empire fleet was discovering that their greatest strength had become their greatest weakness. For thousands of years, they had succeeded because they could coordinate massive fleets perfectly. But that coordination depended on systems that humans had learned to disrupt. Chief Petty Officer Carl Johnson was leading a boarding party onto an Empire command ship. This was another human advantage. While most aliens preferred to fight at a distance, humans were willing to get close and dirty. "Marines, remember what we learned in training," Johnson told his men. "These aliens have never been in a real fight. Show them what that means." The human boarding parties moved through Empire ships like wolves through a flock of sheep. The alien crew had never experienced hand-to-hand combat. They froze when faced with humans who had learned to fight with their bare hands. In space, the Battle was reaching its climax. The Empire fleet was bigger, but the humans were systematically taking it apart. Every human advantage was being used to maximum effect. Speed, adaptability, creativity, and the willingness to take risks that would terrify other species. The humans were not just winning, they were teaching the galaxy a new way to fight wars, and the lesson was clear. Never underestimate a species that had fought its way from the caves to the stars. The battle was over, but its effects were just beginning. Across the galaxy, the news spread like wildfire. The Zephyrian Empire, which had seemed as permanent as the stars themselves, had been defeated by humans. The impossible had happened. Captain Jake Morrison stood in his office on the UTS Liberty, reading reports from across human space. The numbers were hard to believe, even for someone who had lived through the battle. Admiral Kate Sullivan's image appeared on his communication screen. Her face showed the mixture of pride and sadness that came after any victory bought with blood. "Jake, the final count is in," Sullivan said. "We lost 37 ships and 4,000 people. The Empire lost over 8,000 ships and nearly 2 million crew members." Morrison nodded slowly. Even in victory, humans never forgot the price of war. "What about the prisoners, Admiral?" "Chief Johnson's teams have rescued over 50,000 Empire survivors. Dr. Rogers says their biology makes them vulnerable to the kind of damage our weapons cause. We are treating all of them in our medical facilities." This was causing confusion throughout the galaxy. Most species expected prisoners to be killed or enslaved. The Empire certainly would have done that to human captives. But humans were different. They fought with deadly efficiency, but they treated defeated enemies with unexpected kindness. Dr. Amy Rogers was making discoveries that would change everything. In her laboratory on the UTS Darwin, she and Ben Carter were studying the technology they had captured from Empire ships. "Ben, these quantum resonance patterns are incredible," Amy said, looking at data that scrolled across her screens. The Empire stumbled onto technology that could reshape physics itself, but they never understood what they really had. Engineer Ben Carter was reviewing calculations that seemed impossible. "Amy, if these numbers are right, we have not just copied their technology. We have improved it beyond what they thought was possible. Their work would lead to breakthroughs that would give humanity advantages no other species could match. Faster than light travel that could cross the galaxy in days instead of months. Communication systems that worked instantly across any distance. Energy sources that could power entire star systems." Commander Rick Hayes was already planning humanity's next moves. The Empire had controlled 12 sectors of space directly and influenced 40 others. With their fleet broken, there would be chaos unless someone stepped in to maintain order. "Helen, what are we hearing from the former Empire territories?" Hayes asked his intelligence officer. Lieutenant Commander Helen Brooks reviewed the messages, flooding in from across the galaxy. "Sir, we have surrender offers from 14 Empire governors. 37 client species are asking for human protection, and at least 50 worlds are declaring independence." Hayes smiled. Humans had learned from their own history that winning battles meant nothing without a plan for what came next. "Send the standard response. Any government that renounces the Empire system and agrees to basic humanitarian principles will receive human protection. Any that refuses..." He did not need to finish the sentence. The galaxy had seen what happened to the Empire when they challenged humanity. Fighter pilot Scott Adams was teaching the first class of alien pilots in human combat techniques. His students included former Empire officers and newly freed slaves from dozens of different worlds. "The most important thing you need to understand," Scott explained to the mixed group, "is that humans do not fight just to win battles. We fight to make sure those battles never have to be fought again." This philosophy was becoming the foundation of what historians would call the Terran doctrine. The idea that overwhelming victory was better than long wars, and that showing mercy to defeated enemies prevented future conflicts. Dr. Kevin Walsh was documenting the changes that were spreading through galactic civilization. "Amy, the technology we developed during the battle has applications far beyond military use. We are looking at medical treatments that could extend life by centuries, communication networks that could connect every world in the galaxy, and manufacturing techniques that could end scarcity forever. The human approach to warfare had been based on the application of scientific method to military problems. This had revolutionary implications that went far beyond fighting. Other species were learning concepts like rapid innovation and adaptive strategy that they had never imagined. Captain Dan Murphy was overseeing the cleanup operations when he made a discovery that would become part of human legend. His teams were examining captured Empire equipment when they found something shocking. Admiral Sullivan, Murphy reported, "We have been analyzing Empire battle plans. They had been preparing for this fight for over a year. This was not some hastily planned attack. They brought their absolute best equipment and their most experienced commanders." Admiral Sullivan reviewed the intelligence reports with growing amazement. "Dan, are you telling me that what we just fought was the Empire at full strength?" "Yes, ma'am. They did not underestimate us, they just had no idea what they were dealing with." This revelation spread through human command like an electric shock. The Empire had not been caught off guard or unprepared. They had brought everything they had, and humans had still crushed them completely. News of the human victory was causing reactions across the galaxy that ranged from celebration to terror. Species that had suffered under Empire rule for thousands of years suddenly saw hope for the first time in their lives. Others who had cooperated with the Empire faced the possibility of judgment by beings who seemed to possess technology and tactics beyond comprehension. The Galactic Trade Federation sent their first diplomatic mission to Earth within a week of the battle. Ambassador Kextai, representing 12 major species, arrived expecting to negotiate with conquerors. Instead, he found humans who were more interested in trade agreements than tribute payments. "We do not want to rule the galaxy," explained Secretary of Interstellar Affairs Laura Peterson during their first meeting. "We want to make sure no one else rules it either." This statement became the cornerstone of human galactic policy. Not conquest, but the prevention of conquest. Not empire, but the protection of liberty for any species willing to reach for it. The changes were happening faster than anyone had expected. Within months of the battle, the rigid hierarchy that had controlled the galaxy for millennia was crumbling. In its place, a new order was emerging based on cooperation rather than domination. Captain Morrison, now promoted to admiral, was writing his final report on the battle when he realized something profound. "We did not just defeat an empire," he told his aide. "We proved that freedom is stronger than tyranny, that innovation is more powerful than tradition, and that no force in the universe can stand against people who refuse to give up." His words were carved into monuments on 100 worlds. Children who had been born into slavery would grow up free because humans had shown the galaxy that even the mightiest empire could fall. The age of the Zephyrian Empire was over. The age of galactic freedom had begun. And at the center of it all were humans, the young species from a small blue world who had looked at an impossible situation and decided to make it possible. The galaxy had shaken when the Empire dared to face the Terran fleet. When the shaking stopped, humanity stood smiling, not in conquest, but in the knowledge that they had given every thinking being in the galaxy the chance to choose their own destiny. That was perhaps the greatest victory of all,